Okay, welcome into another edition of Skers Scoop here. It is Wednesday at about 7 o'clock, and we're going to talk a little baseball. So Nebraska's doing really, really, really well this season. They're 28-9 with a 12-3 record in conference. They're sitting second in the Big Ten, and they're coming off a huge month of March here with an 8-2 record. And just kind of all things are clicking right now. 6 games behind UCLA, and there's a real chance that they can host a regional coming up here later in the year. So Brody, I guess I'm going to hand it off to you and just kind of have you and Will here talk us through how they got to that point.
Of course. I mean, their biggest thing that has really helped them was they have 8 batters hitting over 300 this year, which has been huge. And I think that's been their biggest step. That month of March going 18-2 was their bats were just juiced the whole time. Just no matter what, they were never out of the fight. Like they had a series against Maine, and I think 2 out of 3 games they were losing in the 9th inning. One of them they were down 5 in the 9th, and they came back and won it. And the bats are just never out of it. I think it's a huge thing. So,
yeah,
Will, how about you?
I mean, getting into the individuals of it, I mean, the biggest guy I've seen so far this season, besides Dylan Carey and Case Sanderson, obviously, is I'd say Jet Buck. Honestly, I mean, he leads the team in batting average, 385, and I just feel like him being able to get on base consistently and just flirting with 400 all year. I think a guy like that really brings some versatility to the lineup, and I just think also the on-base percentage from Nebraska up until this point in the season is truly what helps them get runs on the board late in the game specifically, because what I've noticed about this team so far is they don't care about getting down early. They're able to bounce back, score runs late in the game, and they're very – I mean, they just know how to bounce back.
Yeah, it's really been impressive to see. Obviously they're coming off the back-to-back Big Ten championships. And hoping to keep it rolling here. As the season winds down. But just going into these last, couple, really just the last week here, it was kind of a tough loss to Kansas during the midweek, and then that Oregon series was one that was super close. They obviously lost the final two games there that were tough, but overall it was fun to watch. So Brody, just go ahead and talk us through that there.
100%. Yeah, that first Oregon game was just weird all over the place. That they had a lightning delay there, and that was the first ever lightning delay in that new Oregon stadium. So I'm not sure exactly when it got built, but that's just an unfortunate circumstance we come to know as Husker fans. And it's just funny it still got us all the way out in Oregon, but after that delay, Oregon went up, but we got a little comeback going, and we had a play at home. And, I mean, no matter what side of the field you were on, if you're watching that review, there was an obvious overturn that we were safe at home, and they, had it stand, which I just don't agree with at all. And ended up losing 6-7 there, which is unfortunate, but we out-hit them every single game in that series, and we can battle with the big boys. I mean, it's Oregon baseball. They've always been good. They'll continue to be good. They'll be a top 20 team the rest of the year. And that Kansas game, they were unranked going into it. So there was a lot of overreactions with that. And people were like, oh my gosh, losing midweeks again. Because previous years, like last year, I remember we lost to South Dakota State in a midweek. And it's always the Will Bolt special of not winning midweeks. But he has completely gotten rid of that agenda this year, and that was the first one they've lost all year, which is just huge. And now they have a win against Creighton in the midweek yesterday, which is just huge for these guys, because that's how you end up hosting and getting a higher seed when it comes to the regionals is no bad losses. We only have 2 quad 3 and 4 losses this year, which is huge. And I think a big key to that is a pitching staff. I mean, your top 4 guys of Ty Horn, Carson Yasa, Gavin Blackowitz, and Cooper Katsky is just huge. And Ty Horn's moving to the bullpen, which has needed some help, which I'm going to love because, there's not too many names that stick out because college baseball is not known for their bullpens. So our biggest guy in there is Jashawn Unger, who's our closer with 8 saves in the season. He has a 3.16 ERA, which has been, good enough for them to close out some games, but bullpens need some help. And I think having Ty Horn go out there, who was originally a Friday night guy, is just going to be huge. And we'll see what he can do going forward. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, I really love how you brought up the Ty Horn getting moved to the bullpen because, I mean, if you watched any of his pitching in the Big Ten tournament last year, I mean, he was lights out against UCLA. I mean, threw well over 120 pitches, leading them to a win. I mean, when you have a guy like that getting moved to the bullpen and a team that can score runs late in the game, I mean, you're not going to have trouble putting games away. And kind of tying back to the Will Bolt thing, I mean, Will Bolt was a guy fighting arguably for his job at the end of last season before the Big Ten tournament. And since then, I mean, he's turned the program around, forgetting the NCAA tournament last year. But, I mean, I love the Ty Horn move to the bullpen. I think he brings a lot of fight into the end of games, which 7th, 8th inning, 9th inning, those are the innings that win you games and lose you games. So I really support the move, and I think he's going to thrive in the bullpen.
100%.
Yeah, I think it's, interesting to just kind of hear you guys talk about how there was, somewhat of a stipulation around Will Bolt, considering how well he's done with the program over the last couple of years, just how good of a coach he is, obviously coming off those back-to-back Big Ten championships and just moving forward, where they're sitting in second in the Big Ten right now. They got a big upcoming match against, USC here. Brody, go ahead and walk us through that, because obviously this has, a lot to do with, how the Big Ten kind of comes to a close at the end of the season.
100%. Yeah, this is a series that it's going to come down to where we're going to be seated in June because of the series. Because if you can get a sweep in this series, you are in a driver's seat to host a regional at the Haymarket. And I'm not too big on the Nebraska baseball history, so I'm not sure if they've ever done that before. But, I mean, that'd just be an insane atmosphere, because you know how much Husker fans love their sports, especially in the summer. They would show up and they would be loud.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's going to be like this week. And it's going to be a preview of if we were to host a regional. We have good weather Friday and Sunday. Saturday's a little cold, but I mean, the two biggest matches are Friday night and their Sunday game. And if they can come out with some fire, I think that'd be a huge series to win. But it's going to be really tough because USC's pitching is filthy, to say the least. Their top guy, Mason Edwards, who is most likely going to be their Saturday pitcher, is a top 70 MLB prospect. And he has a 1.35 ERA this year through 53 innings. And you pair that with their Friday night guy, Grant Govel, who's has a 1.62 ERA in 50 innings. It's going to be tough matches for the boys this weekend. But the one bright side to look at here is USC only has one guy batting over 300. So if our bats can get through these really tough pitchers, we should be able to win the series. If not, not to get ahead of myself here, but, sweeping would just be absolutely huge for the team. And it's going to be really tough. This is probably going to be our hardest series of the year, I will say, until it comes into the Big Ten tournament. But if they can get a win Friday night, I think they're in the driver's seat to win the series. At least I think our two biggest games are going to be Friday night into the Sunday game. And hopefully Haymarket's as loud as they can be.
Yeah, Brody, I really like how you brought up USC's pitching. I mean, their team ERA is a 3.4. I mean, that's just amazing, especially at the college level, and that'd be great for the MLB level too. But I mean, yeah, it kind of really drops off. Like, their biggest weakness has been the hitting. Like you said, only one guy hitting over 300, Kevin Takeuchi. And I mean, he has 44 hits on the season leading the team, which doesn't pop out that much to me. I mean, ultimately, I think this really could be a rubber match at the end of the day with two excellent pitching staffs. I mean, I think like I keep saying, late inning runs is ultimately what's going to determine this series. And I mean, if Nebraska can come out and win on Friday and take momentum early in the series, I think coming away with we don't even have to sweep USC for this to be a successful series. I think if you come out and win the series, you're in good shape. And yeah.
Yeah, it sure sounds like just from what you guys are saying, it's definitely a little bit of a strength on strength here, and I think there's going to be a ton of people that are willing to watch in and see how this plays out. So Let's wrap it up with a little bit of a prediction here. Neither of you guys, I don't think, gave it away too much here, but Brody, yeah, go ahead and tell us how you're feeling.
100%, yeah. I mean, as much as I want that sweep to happen, that's going to be really difficult, and you don't fully need that. What I'm thinking here is you win that Friday and Sunday, you win it 2-1. I think that's going to be huge for us, So I think if they can get that done, it'll be a success, and that's what I'm really leaning towards happening, because I think Haymarket's going to be on fire Friday and Sunday. Saturday's looking too cold, which honestly could be in our favor because it's a West Coast team, which you could think about. But I think the crowd's really going to help them out Friday and Sunday and hopefully get them some wins there. So,
yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more blunt about this. I think I'm really looking forward to this Friday matchup. I think Nebraska will come out and beat USC in the first game of the series. I'll take them 3-1, I'll say, with an excellent pitching performance. I don't think we're going to be able to get 2 in a row against USC. I think the cold weather, it won't help either teams, but I think USC, their pitching is just too well, and I think USC will take that second game, but I honestly think that third game's a toss-up and could really be a determining factor for how this season unfolds the rest of the way. But by the flip of the coin, I'll take Nebraska winning this series 2-1. Nebraska takes those Friday and Sunday games. USC takes the Saturday, but yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think it's gonna be too tight. 3 tight games there. You're talking about the second place team in the Big Ten and the third place. So obviously it's supposed to be close, and obviously both teams, are quality to this point and have a lot riding on, the upcoming series. So that'll do it for us. We'll probably talk about a baseball video going into next week here, and we're gonna get right to recording a basketball video right after this. So expect a couple of videos coming out this week for Skers Scoop. But thank you for tuning in.